So we are back. I managed to find 4 batteries to fit in the mixer, so we're going to give it a try. So I have this clock mould, which we're going to mix up. I'm going to do some of Charlotte Parkinson's Neon Pink and some of the Ultrafine Pixie Purple, which can be bought, so both of these two can be bought over on Resin Supplies Den. And I've already got it all over my mould. So we're also going to be testing out the ISTOYO Resin to see how we get on. So I'm going to get some gloves on, get the glitter I've just spilt on the mould off, and then we will be good to go. Right, so I have my gloves on and we are ready to go. I'm going to mix up the resin. I have checked that both part A and part B are at identical levels, so I know that if there are any inaccurate measurements, it is my fault. So here goes. Just help if does help if my cup is level to start with. These little handles are quite awkward to pour from. We are at 300, so we are going to do 300. That is part B. I've not warmed these resins. I have done nothing with them other than take out the lids that were inside them, and yeah, just going to pour and see how it goes because it is the first time. I do want to see what it comes out like. These handles are awkward to pour from. I do need quite a lot for this mould, and I can't remember because I can't find my notepad as to how much it holds. So I'm going to go with 600 ml. So that's 300 of part A, and obviously 300 of part B. And then you can see in there already the unmixed parts. I always get down to eye level when I am mixing any resin so that I can see if it's equal. I always check the bowls too because I like to know that I am definitely using equal parts as I'm supposed to. Now I have put the batteries in the mixing stick. It doesn't go very fast, but it does go both ways. So I have robbed my Amazon batteries for this. So let's see how it gets on. So I'm going to keep this sort of mixing. Definitely introduces a lot of bubbles.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Oh, I wasn't talking to you. But yeah, there are a lot more bubbles in here than my regular brand, I would say, but we'll see how they disperse. And obviously this mould is quite flat and thin anyway, so they should escape quite nicely in this mould. But I'm going to put you on pause and I will be back when it's finished mixing and we'll carry on. So I have now mixed this for 3 minutes with my timer on using the mixing thing, and it's nearly mixed. I can still see a few striations in there in a mixed part, so I'm going to mix it a couple more minutes longer One thing I have to say is there are an awful lot of bubbles that this has created. Well, I say it's this, I don't know, because I've never used the resin before, so it could just be the resin, but they are degassing themselves quite quickly. I don't know if the camera is picking that up. See if I can zoom you in. Can you see the amount of bubbles? Now the light is too bright. But yeah, there are an awful lot of bubbles in there. But they do seem to be dispersing themselves. So I am going to carry on mixing. And then I will be back to let it degas while we mix up some colours. So we are back. So I have mixed up the resin. There is an awful lot of bubbles that it has created, but as I'm talking and as I'm watching it, I can see them degassing. Now I haven't left it the 10 minutes like it says, but I'm going to pour it into the cups, split it up, and hopefully it will help itself degas. Because I'm going to do, so as I mentioned, I'm going to use the ultra fine pixie purple, which doesn't want to focus, but that is over from Yvonne at Resin Supplies Den. And I'm going to be using Charlotte Parkinson's purple pigment paste, which I love. They come in a really good set of neons, which I can't find the other set. Oh no, I can. They're here. So that is the other half of the set. So they are a great colour bunch. They give off some fantastic colours. That is a little green bear that I've made, and I can't seem to find anything else that I've got that I've made them in, but you probably see that this is degassing as it goes and by itself. So yeah, the bubbles do pop easy enough with a lighter. So yeah, I'm going to get that split and we shall see where we go from here. Okay, so straight away when I poured that, it looked like I could see unmixed parts in there. Now, I'm hoping that's not the case. It is quite a thick resin. It's thicker than I thought it was going to be, considering how quickly it does seem to be degassing. Which, yeah, has shocked me a little bit. So what I'm going to do, the plan is to So what my plan is that we are going to have a little bit of clear. And then build out with the colours. Now, I know this mould takes a lot, like I said, but we're going to mix in the colours. We don't want much of the purple because I know how pigmented it can be, but I do want a lot of the glitter, which is going to be the main part of it. So we will go ahead and get that mixed in. Now, my thoughts and views on that mixing stick is not great. Probably won't be in a hurry to use it again. It seemed to create a lot of bubbles. Now, I don't know if that's because I've not used this resin before. And that's just how the resin is, or whether that is from the mixing stick. Now, what I would be keen to see is what it is like. You can see just how sparkly this is, and it's not fully mixed yet. But yeah, what I would be keen to see is how good that mixing stick is with my usual brand, which I would say is no bubbles when you mix. And I know when I mix that by hand, I can mix that 3 to 5 minutes. It's streak free, no bubbles, brilliant, yeah, which is why it's my normal go-to. So like I said, it will be good to see what that mixer is like, or whether that is the actual resin itself that is super bubbly. But it does say in the instructions that obviously you can use a torch. So they obviously know that it does have bubbles when you do this. Now, there is, I don't know if you can see how thick that is, but there is an awful lot of glitter in there. It's still quite light. It's not too dark, and I just want a smidgen of that purple now in the other resin. I am then going to back this in white, but obviously not today once it has cured. But again, we will come back to do that and demold. So that one, I would say, is pretty much all mixed in now. I'm quite happy with how that is mixed. With these, you only need a tiny bit. They do not need much at all before they come quite heavily coloured in your resin. So, okay, so as you can see, I am literally using a drop. Now, this is a full cup, and I don't want it dark, I just want it light purple, but still quite a bright purple. I don't want a dark colour that the purple glitter is then going to get lost. I want the glitter to be the main feature in this piece. But as you can see, as I'm mixing, there are still a lot of bubbles in this, and I can actually see them in the glitter. One popping and rising to the surface. I am going to do, I wasn't going to, okay, so I just had a thought, and I'm going to add some white into this as well, because I think having a white in there might break up some of the colours from the purple and the glitter. So I don't want too much white though. Because obviously I am going to back this as well. So let's pop that in there. Now this mica powder is whatever that make is, Owl Clear, if that's how you say it. I'm not a massive fan of this because it is quite clumpy. Obviously I didn't know that at the time I bought it, otherwise I wouldn't have purchased it. But I do want little bit of white. I'm going to add some alcohol to this as well, some alcohol inks, because I'm hoping by adding the white it might create some cells itself. So this video is sort of evolving. As we're going through. But saying that, the bubbles on the two pastes, I don't know if the camera is picking them up, but they are dispersing and popping quite nicely. So I have some silicone oil, which I'm going to add a drop of once I've added the white. I want it to have a bit of a shimmer, but I don't want it to really overpower that mica powder that's already in there. Which it has. Which is a shame, but it's just what happens, and resin does what resin wants. You only need a drop or so of the silicone oil. Which also can be bought over on Resin Supply Stand. Not that particular brand. I've had that bottle probably about 3 years now. Maybe not that long. I'm not sure actually. But yeah, it goes a long way. You only need a drop, and like when I say a drop, I mean a drop. So a bottle this big will last you a lifetime. It really doesn't need much at all. So the bubbles have now rose to the surface in here. Okay. The light is quite hot actually. So I just want some white to sort of drip through. Like I said, I don't want lots of white. Oh, should have moved that on. And now I've dripped white in there. Did anyone see how that got in there? I have I have, but never mind, that will mix in. So we already have, as you can see, it's starting to create a few waves in there. We just want the light purple. We've got white in places we don't want white. But hey, this is resin. And I don't know if any resin artists that are super clean. If you are clean and tidy while you're making, please let me know, because I can't do it. I just can't be neat and tidy when I resin. It doesn't work. Me and resin like to be messy. So like I said, I want the purple to be the feature colour and the main colour, because who doesn't love purple and glitter? And we are going to back this as well. So, didn't mix that in very well, did I? Looked like it was mixed in lovely. And then she pours. Does anyone else do this, or is it just me? So we have that one empty. Let's get a bit more white in here. So that can separate. I'm hoping this white will also drop through to the bottom. And sort of spread quite nicely through the rest of it. We are probably not going to have enough room to back this if I carry on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press pause. I'm going to go and grab another mould. I'm going to let this sort of do its thing and move about. But yeah, I think we have quite a lot of resin in there, so yeah, let's see how we get on. So by this point I realised my hands were, well, by this point my hands were covered in resin. I had resin everywhere. I had way too much resin, so I sort of mixed a bit of Charlotte's Pink in, I mixed a bit of a blue in, and I've created all sorts. So what I'm going to do, the bubbles are starting to rise, as you can see. I'm going to leave them for sort of 10-15 minutes. I'm going to come back and hopefully the bubbles will have dispersed. So yeah, be back in a minute. So I have left them. The bubbles seem to have rose to the top. I have been round with the micro brush around all of the edges. Obviously, as I did have loads left over, and I have put some patterns into this because I don't think that white is gonna come through, so I wanted to try and push it through, or at least that was my plan anyway. Now I don't know whether this is the glitter, and I don't know whether the camera is, whether I can zoom in and that's going to pick that up, but you might be able to see it. No. Now here, I've only ever once had an Amani blush, and that was when the humidity was definitely way too high. I know it isn't in here today. I know it is fine. So I'm hoping this is just the glitter that I can see here. I can't see it anywhere else, but there is some sort of layer, or looks like a layer forming on the top. Now, I did think it was bubbles, and I did go in and try and pop them, but it doesn't seem to be the case. It does look, although it is going to be an Amani blush, which if it is, I probably won't use this resin again. So I'm crossing my fingers that it isn't. It's, like I said, it's not a resin I've used before. I have never used this resin before. This is the first time. Like I said, from my review so far, it has a lot of bubbles. I obviously did use the mixer, so I am going to give it a fair try, and I am going to use it without their mixer, because I don't know if it's that, and I know a lot of mixers do create bubbles, so it's quite possibly just the mixer that is creating the bubbles. But this, if I think, and it does quite well look like an Amani blush, like I said, it could, because it isn't mixed, and I did say when I decanted it, it looked like there was a unmixed part in there, but I did give it a good mix, so I don't know. So I'm going to wait for this to cure, see what it turns out like, and then, yeah, we will look at it again. So, yeah, we will be back once it is cured.